So it is 6 o'clock, so we'll call this regular meeting of the Fundy Albert Council at the Riverside Consolidated Schools to order. Thank you everyone for attending. I would point out that this is a bit of a unique situation. We had a scheduling conflict at our other location, but we're now in a very historic building. It was, I believe, built in the early 1905. It was built by the world famous, I believe, Reed Brothers. It was, they were the architects, correct? Yeah, perfect. So thank you everybody for attending, and for the benefit of those people who have never attended a meeting of council before, and I see some what I feel are new faces, just to let everybody know that this is an opportunity for the public to view the business of the meeting of the Council of the Village of Fundy Albert. Unless you are registered to speak, it's really not an opportunity for anybody to interject during the meeting. There is an opportunity at the very end of our meeting for the public to make statements, and we'll certainly encourage that. So I did call the meeting for the January 9th meeting to order. The next order of business is the adoption of the agenda. The agenda for this evening's meeting was circulated in advance. I would propose the addition of a resolution to add our newly appointed CAO clerk and deputy mayor to the signing authorities as item number 13B, and also the addition of public comments and statements as item number 14. This would make the closed session item number 15 and the adjournment item number 16. Are there any objections to those additions? There not being any, are there any other additions to the meeting agenda? So if there's no objection, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. So moved by Councillor Coates, seconded by Councillor Elderkin. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried unanimously. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to the items on this evening's agenda?
Pending.
So Councillor Land is noting a conflict of interest for item number 10D. So the next item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes, and there were a number of them during the month of December, and we have one for January as well. We have the following minutes to approve. Those of the regular council meeting of December 15th, the special council meeting of December 14th. There's a special meeting on December 23rd, a special meeting on December 27th, a special meeting on December 30th, and a special meeting on January 6th, 2024. So the draft minutes of the regular meeting on December 5th were circulated in advance of this meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? Councilor Coates?
There was one, just a minor on Cheryl. The spelling was beyond the when we consent agenda for the garbage pickups or changing whatever it was. I can't get on my tablet. So
The spelling of Farrell, was it correct?
one there.
Okay, so we'll make note of that. Anything else?
That's it.
I will therefore accept the motion to adopt the minutes as presented, or as amended, I should say. So moved by Councillor Elderkin. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Land. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. The draft minutes of the special meeting on December 14th were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? There being none, I'll accept a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Elderkin, seconded by Councillor Land. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. The draft minutes of the special meeting on September 23rd, 2023 were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? There being none, I accept a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Coates, seconded.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Elderkin. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. The draft minutes of the meeting on December 27th were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? Not, I'll accept a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Land, seconded by Councillor Arrow. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. The next set of minutes are the draft minutes of the special meeting on December 30th, 2023. They were circulated in advance of this meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? There being none, I'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Elderkin, seconded by Councillor Land. Any questions on the motion? Not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. The last set of minutes are the minutes of the special meeting on January 6th, 2024. They were circulated in advance of this meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? If not, I'll accept a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Coates, seconded by Councillor Ward Russell. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. That deals with the minutes. So we'll move on to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. There are no consent agenda items for this evening's meeting. Item number 6, the appointment of a deputy mayor. So section 48, subsection 3 of the Local Governance Act requires that council elect a deputy mayor in accordance with a procedural bylaw. Section 19 of the bylaw respecting the proceedings of Fundy Albert Municipal Council and committee meetings requires that council elect a deputy mayor at its first meeting and annually thereafter. The deputy mayor is required to perform the duties of the mayor when he or she is unable to do so. I will shortly call for nominations. You may nominate someone for the position of deputy mayor and/or nominate yourself. If nominated by someone else, I will ask the nominee to see if they are willing to serve, if elected. I will then call for further nominations 3 times. I will then ask for a motion that nominations cease. Once the motion for nominations cease has passed, if only one person has been nominated and that person is willing to serve, he or she will be appointed deputy mayor. If 2 or more people are nominated, I will offer each candidate the opportunity to speak for a maximum of 2 minutes in support of their candidacy. If 2 or more candidates are nominated, there will then be a vote where each member of council will cast a vote for the person they wish to become deputy mayor by name. The clerk will record all votes. If there is a majority of members who vote for one person, that person will be appointed deputy mayor. So I will ask, are there any nominations for the position of deputy mayor?
I would like to make a nomination.
And
I would like to nominate Councillor Arrow for this position.
so Councillor Ward Russell nominates Councillor Arrow. Councillor Arrow, are you willing to serve?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Arrow is willing to serve. Are there any other nominations? That's once. Are there any other nominations? Yes, Councillor. Councillor Coates nominates Councillor Ward Russell. Councillor Ward Russell, are you willing to serve?
I appreciate the offer, but at this time I will not accept it.
So Councillor Ward Russell declines the nomination. So one more is, are there any further nominations? I will accept the motion for nominations to cease.
Okay.
So Councillor Ward Russell makes the motion for nominations to cease. That means there only being one person, Councillor Arrow, congratulations, you're appointed deputy mayor. Thank you very much.
It was just leading up to this is when I first noticed that Councillor Jonah is not with us.
No, he's not here with us tonight. No, he's absent, and I was aware of that. Item number 7 is the introduction of our new CAO clerk. I'm very pleased to introduce Linda Sabrin, who's sitting beside me, who recently joined our team as the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk for the municipality of Fundy, Alberta. Mrs. Sabrin assumed her duties yesterday after being appointed by council into the role of acting CAO clerk on December 23rd, 2023. With more than 20 years of government experience and an extensive background in strategic planning, project management, reporting metrics, and compliant risk management, Linda brings a wealth of experience and a commitment to enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of our administrative processes. As we continue our mission to serve the residents of Fundy, Alberta better, Linda will play a crucial role in streamlining our administrative operations, ensuring transparency, and fostering a more responsive and citizen-centric approach. We're confident that Linda will contribute significantly to the growth and improvement of our services. We look forward to working with Linda to provide enhanced services for all taxpayers in Fundy, Alberta. So on behalf of council, I wish to welcome Linda to our team. Welcome. So the next item on the agenda is item number 8, public and administrative presentations. We did have one 5-minute presentation registered for this evening's meeting. Mr. Michael McBurney has corresponded and indicated that he will not be with us tonight. So we will now move to the next registered presentation. So our procedural bylaw also provides for 2-minute presentations if someone registered prior to the beginning of the meeting. We do have two 2-minute presentations registered for this evening. Mrs. Nancy Land is here to present on the topic of the Hillsborough Recreation Council. I would note that Mrs. Land had previously requested the opportunity to present for 5 minutes. She had corresponded with me back on December 30th, so met the criteria for a 5-minute presentation, but because of a miscommunication, mostly because of me, she was not included on the agenda. So Mrs. Nancy Land will be allowed to speak longer than the 2 minutes provided for in our procedural bylaw by virtue of the fact that she had pre-registered. So Mrs. Land, if you would like, you can either, it's a very close quarter, so if you would like maybe to come over and stand here, or you can do it right from there is fine.
See me? Yeah, okay. I am, thank you, Mayor Roshan. I am Nancy Land. I'm the director of the Literacy Express program for preschoolers, which takes place in Hillsborough. I am here again to speak up for the future of the program, which, as you know, operates as an entity under the Hillsborough Recreation Council. At the last regular council meeting of December the 5th, Councillor Arrow made some remarks about the Rec Council that seemed to me to indicate there is a potential threat to the continuation of it, and therefore to the Literacy Express program. Councillor Arrow described his discomfort with the Hillsborough Rec Council because he saw it as some kind of a masquerade, his words, that the municipality is hiding behind to get funding to which it otherwise would not be entitled. He also referred to a successful grant application made by the Hillsborough Rec Council and the municipality. And I'm going to assume that he was referring to applications made for the Literacy Express. And I would like to assure the council that the foundations who made the grants of support of Literacy Express knew exactly what and who they were supporting, as they have been doing so for the past 10 years. Councillor Arrow said he does not want the Hillsborough Rec Council used for any purpose until, quote, we can get to the bottom of this, and you all agreed with that, which essentially tied up the foundation's monies that are in that account for my use. So here I am. If the Hillsborough Rec Council is suspended or disbanded, as there's been some little talk of, then the monies in it, which were given for the purpose of supporting Literacy Express, will not be available to me. You cannot give the remaining money in the account to me as an individual, as has been suggested. The monies in question were given by charitable organizations, and unless I am wrong, they have rules of accountability set by the CRA, which involve not giving to individuals. The NB Children's Foundation, which has been a major supporter of this program for, well, since it began, is very strict in their protocols. And come August, they're going to be asking for an accounting of their money that's been spent on the program. And they will not be very happy to see if it was released in one large check to me just 3 or 4 months after they awarded it. And I would not accept it anyway. The money in the rec council will have to be returned by it to the charities in question, which means there will be no money to run the program and the Literacy Express program, which was planned and funded by these charities to May of 2027 to May of 2025 will have to be, well, abridged. Therefore, I would urge this council to leave the Hillsborough Rec Council as it is within the management of the municipality. This is a protocol and a process which has worked very well for the years that the council has been in existence. By leaving it within the management of the municipality, you provide for its continuation and its accountability. It's very hard to set a private organization with private boards because people kind of come and go. If it's under the management of the municipality, as it has been, that provides for its continuation, because I'm assuming there's always going to be an administrative staff of Fundy Albert. It also provides accountability. I'm very wary of private boards, I really am. They are not always accountable as they should be with money, and once that money gets misspent or stolen, there's no recourse for that group or that organization. They don't have any recourse to retrieve it. I trust the administrative staff of Fundy Albert to handle the money in the Hillsborough Recreation account, Recreation Council account, because they have handled the money for Literacy Express very, very well these past number of years. That is my presentation, so I would just urge you to leave it within the management of the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Land. I will now ask councilors to see if they have any questions of Mrs. Land. Councilor Ward Russell, any questions?
No, thank you for your presentation.
Councilor Elderkin?
No, thank you for your presentation, and it certainly, I believe, wasn't, I can speak for myself, wasn't my intent to stop the Hillsborough Recreation Council. I think as a new council, we were asking questions because it was new to us, and it appears to be a little bit set up differently than the former municipality. So if it was misunderstood that way, you know, my apologies, but it certainly wasn't my intent.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Errol.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb, for your presentation. Clearly, I think there's maybe a misunderstanding between yourself and myself on what my questioning is concerning the Hillsborough Rec Council. There is an agenda item on the agenda tonight for the Hillsborough Rec Council, so I'll speak more to that particular subject later. In terms of Literacy Express and your concern that any of my words or intentions are meant to cause harm to Literacy Express, that is certainly not the case. You and I have spoken in public sessions before about certainly myself and my family are long time supporters of literacy for young people. And the program that you run, as well as other programs like the ELF program, which I think is on the agenda as well tonight, are very important for our young people and the promotion and building of literacy. And I don't think that Literacy Express needs to worry about the grant money that was received that will be coming to you. That was requested. You won, and that money, I believe, is 100% earmarked for you, and I see no reason why that would never get to you on the timelines that you're expecting. In terms of
I'm not understanding.
In terms of Literacy Express, and actually it's linked to the Hillsborough Rec Council, that's still a little bit of a mystery to me, but when we get to the agenda item later on, I will make a motion considering the Hillsborough Rec Council, which I think the outcome of that, if the motion is adopted, would allow me and other council members over time to better understand what the rec council is doing. And it's linked to Literacy Express and any of the other programs that it might be linked to. But at the present time, as a new council, we have been very much kind of in the dark. So I urge you to feel comfortable that the monies that were destined for you from your supporters and they're in a bank account that I guess is the Hillsborough Rec Council. Those monies, I'm sure, will find their way to you as they should.
And so Councillor Arrows really wasn't asking the question, he was just making a statement, so, so there is no opportunity for an exchange. You were provided the opportunity for a presentation, Councillor Arrow commented, I'll now go on to Councillor Coates.
I thank you for your time, Nancy, and I'm 100% in favor of the Literacy Express.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Land, I will skip over. All right. So we do have someone else who's registered for a 2-minute presentation. That's Miss Katrina Curry on the topic of Hillsborough Rec Council. So Miss Curry.
Good evening, everyone. Don't start my 2 minute shut up. I'm not much of a public speaker, but I am here due to the rec council. Councillor Jonah and I have talked in the past year. I was going to be helping, but I haven't heard anything. But when I did see something come up about the rec council, it was very disturbing. I am in a place in my life right now that I want to do more for my community. I've lived in Alberta County my whole life, born and bred, and lived in Hillsborough all my life. And I do ditto what Mrs. Land said. With the rec council, my understanding is the swimming pool in Hillsborough, that is where a bunch of our kids go in the summertime. We help with, there's a whole bunch of grants. I know that there's federal and provincial grants to help out with the with whatever the rec council would like to do. For my presentation tonight with the rec council, I love to fundraise. We need a dog park. We were going to the ball field down by the Kiwanis, but that because of things that happened and people not picking up after their dogs was banded. We were not allowed to take our dogs. So part of my thing for tonight is I am here on behalf of my fur babies and everyone else's fur babies. We have to go to Riverview to go to the dog park to take our dogs to exercise, to socialize with other dogs. And it's not just for the dogs, it's for us as human beings to socialize with other people. Within Alberta County, there is a lot of new people moving in. And that is one way to get to know our neighbors. And I bring along with me a lot of fundraising background and more people to sit on our rec council as well, that are, willing to join in. And with the amalgamation, I believe that as we have amalgamated, we need to work together. So with Fundy Albert as the council and mayor, we need to work together from here down. I don't have my, but from Hillsborough way on down to Alma, we need to all work together and make it more of a community. And I am here to help in any way I can with not just my community, but with other communities as well.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mrs. Curry. Any questions, Councillor Lang?
Thank you for coming.
Councillor Coates?
No.
Councillor Arrow?
No, thank you for your intention to help the community, and let's hope maybe we can make the dog park a reality.
Councillor Alderman?
No, thank you very much, and it's very promising to know that there are people that want to be a part of the Hillsborough Recreation Council, so thank you.
And Councillor Ward Russell?
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Curry. Thank you. So we'll move on now to item number 9, which is reports and recommendations from committees and private meetings. There are no reports and recommendations from committees and private meetings to report. Moving on to item number 10 on the agenda, reports from administration. The first item is the Southeast Regional Service Commission building permits. I'm pleased to report that there were 2 permits issued in December 2023, totaling $400,090 in value. While I don't have the total of building permits for Fundy Albert issued for the 2023 year, there were a considerable number of permits and values. I think it goes back to October. The building permit value in October was 1.3 million, just in Fundy Albert. Quite a bit of that is in the Lower Coverdale area, but it's spread out pretty much throughout. The difficulty with not having the accurate number right now is that the Southeast Regional Service Commission only began tracking for all of Fundy Albert partway through the year. So moving into 2024, we have consistent data right throughout the year. Yes, Council Land.
I have a question on the address. I Googled it, but it doesn't come up in Fundy Albert. The Mayfield Street? It's not listed in there.
It's in, I believe it's in Lower Coverdale, Mayfield.
Could be in the street.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not on the Google.
Could be.
Thank you.
Item number 10B, the request from the constituent, ceasefire now. At the December 5th, 2023 regular meeting, the request from a constituent was brought up. There was no discussion that took place as no motion was introduced. The constituent felt that this council had not given the request due consideration. For this reason, it's being brought up again. Councilors were provided the full request from the constituent. The constituent is appealing to this council to reconsider the request. The request dated November 13th is for council to issue a public statement condemning the conflict and violence between Israel and Palestine and the violence that is occurring in Gaza, and to write a letter to the federal government. The conflict has resulted in the death of many innocent civilians and journalists. The constituent is asking that this council issue a public statement calling for a ceasefire and to write a letter to the federal government in support of a ceasefire. I'll reiterate what I said at the December 5th meeting. In order for this or any request to be considered and debated and a decision to be made, it requires a motion of council. So I would entertain if there is a motion to be presented. Now is the time. Councilor Arrow?
I'm prepared to make that motion. So whereas in support of the requests that we've received, which includes, among other things, the understanding that municipal government has a role in advocacy to other levels of government and the promotion of a caring community, I move that this council honor that written request concerning the cessation of hostilities in Gaza by council, one, publicly stating that council is deeply troubled by the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in Gaza and calls on all warring parties for an immediate and lasting ceasefire. And two, council preparing and sending a letter to the Prime Minister of Canada to urge him and his government to use all diplomatic means possible to facilitate an immediate ceasefire and a lasting peace in the region.
So moved by Councilor Arrow. Is there a seconder on that motion? And all second that does is it opens up for debate and discussion. So seconded by Councilor Elderkin. So now we can entertain the debate. So Councilor Arrow, you get to speak first.
Okay, and I have not too many words, but the resident who requested this understood and made mention in their communication to us that this kind of advocacy is not a core duty of a municipal government. And I certainly on several other previous occasions have indicated that my belief in that and that it's important for municipal government to kind of stay in its lane, stay in its area of jurisdiction and mandate. But as I mentioned at the beginning in my whereas statements, the resident also notes the municipal government has a role for advocacy with other levels of government on matters that are important to the community. And in this particular case, this is one that certainly this resident believes in and I support. And that they, as a practicing social worker, they see the harm that's done by violence and war to people, including in particular children. And with the number of children that have been affected by this event that is happening overseas, I am supportive of this.
Okay, and I would ask anyone else who speaks, you indicate as well whether you're in support of or against the motion. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Land?
Yes. I agree with sending acknowledgements, but in the resolution that you have made, you have narrowed out a particular area, not one side. There's two sides. There's also another war going on in Craig and Rochester.
There is.
So you've got to be really careful when you point the finger. We need to include them all,
I don't disagree.
not just one. We need a ceasefire in the world. We need peace in the world. We do not need wars going on anyways. So to support this particular motion that's unfolding in Gaza, I would be against that. It needs to be reworded.
So, all right, so Councillor Coates, your thoughts?
Well, it's, I would, agree to, if we wrote all the conflict that's going on in the world right now, if we stick on one, we're paying favorites, as I could see. It's a shame that there is war all over the world right now, and many people from Fundy, Albert and Albert County fought for freedom, and we recognize them. So, but this is way across the continent, and I can't really support it.
Thank you. Councillor Elderton?
I would agree with Councillor Land's comments,
So will you be supporting or not supporting the motion?
if there's an amendment to it.
So if you wish to make an amendment to it,
You didn't make an amendment?
well, it has to be specific
Okay.
with words. It needs to be specific with words to clarify the motion.
Yep.
I'll move on to Councillor Russell.
Just a couple of questions. Has Union of Municipalities in New Brunswick, have they advised us on this topic? Or have they issued a response on behalf of all municipalities in New Brunswick?
Not to my knowledge.
And have they discussed this openly of advice on what to do and what not to do?
Not to my knowledge.
And do you know of
I
any
would,
other,
just to clarify, we would need to clarify that with them specifically.
and my last question would be, is any other municipalities done such and sent letters?
I am not aware.
Okay, I guess at this time, I mean, I agree with Councillor Land. I think that was well said. I mean, there's so much trouble happening in worldwide. I think by pinpointing this one issue would not bring justice to what we're trying to do right now, so.
All right, thank you. So I will chime in because I'm allowed to. So my personal position is I personally condemn violence in any form whatsoever. That said, I view the role of government as provided for in the New Brunswick Local Governance Act to provide good government, to provide service, facilities, or things the council considers necessary or desirable for all parts of the local government, to develop and maintain safe and viable communities, and to foster the economic, social, and environmental well-being of the community. I also view the role of councillors through the lens of the local government, which is to consider the welfare and interests of the entire local government when making decisions. Bring the attention of council matters that may promote the welfare and interests of the local government. to participate in developing and evaluating the policies and programs of the local government, to participate in meetings of council, council committees, and any other body to which councillor is appointed by council, and to perform any other duties conferred on the councillor by this or any other act of council. I do not see any suggestion of a role of advocacy within the New Brunswick Local Governance Act, and that's where I'm basing my interpretation of the act. So for that reason, I would not support a motion to this effect. So, are there any other, Councillor Arrow, do you have any other comments to provide?
The only thing I would say is I don't disagree with the councillors who have mentioned that if they were to support this, it's really the hostilities that occur globally, that are occurring globally, not just in Gaza. So on the one hand, I believe in that as someone who's traveled extensively for many not generations, but decades in this world, this troubled world, and seen a lot of trouble. I agree. In this particular case, the request came from a resident for one particular area. And so in the end, I debated whether, and we could still change this easily by replacing the two instances of Gaza and the one instance of region to refer to conflicts globally. But I'm not sure I'm hearing the support for that. This explains why I have made the motion that I did, supporting what was asked of us, which I am supporting of. So if you feel interested, we can change the two instances of Gaza to hostilities anywhere in the world and a lasting peace globally.
So are you suggesting an amendment to your motion?
I'm prepared to make those minor changes to the motion.
Specific words though, Councillor.
Yeah,
We
I
need to add specific words to the motion.
Yes.
So it would be to replace Gaza with?
Anywhere in the world?
Well, because that wasn't the request of the resident, I would have to say, I move that this council promote the cessation of hostilities in any hostile region of the world by one, publicly stating that council is deeply troubled.
Slow down a little bit, Councillor. Trying to pass through your words. No, it's,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny.
No, there's not too
We
many.
need to capture the exact wording, that's all.
Thank you. Promote the cessation of
Cessation.
sorry. Okay, yeah, of
Hostility.
hostilities
In all areas of conflict in the world
okay,
by one, publicly stating that council is deeply troubled by the humanitarian catastrophes that are unfolding within the world's war zones and calls on all warring parties for an immediate and lasting. Most of the words are just there.
No, but she needs to strike out and
Yeah,
capture
okay.
the exact words. The motion is important.
within the world's war zones. Okay, within the world's war zones,
Yeah, and calls on all warring parties for an immediate and lasting ceasefire.
okay,
And two, preparing and sending a letter to the Prime Minister of Canada to urge him and his government to use all diplomatic means possible to facilitate an immediate ceasefire and lasting peace in all the world's war zones.
Okay, so now we have the amended motion. If someone to second the amended motion.
I'll second the amended motion.
So Councillor Elderkin seconds the amended motion.
it
Are
could,
there?
it could be a friendly amendment then, though, since both of them had
Okay.
seconded it,
So
and
it's
if
a friendly
everybody.
amendment, you're in favor of that?
Yeah.
Councillor Elderkin?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a friendly amendment. So are there any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Nay? There's no one, so the motion is adopted, and for whatever, I will weigh in and say I would support something. Very good, all right, so thank you. All right. So item number 10C, which is unsightly premises bylaw. This is more kind of an information item. So in December, I was contacted by a representative of the Department of Environment, and actually an enforcement officer, to ask if our council had enacted a bylaw for the unsightly and dangerous provisions of the Local Governance Act for the former LSD areas of Fundy, Alberta. I informed the representative that this was the first I had heard of this requirement. And I got the sense from my conversation that this wasn't the first incident of that either, that other municipalities were not aware. So this will require a new bylaw for Fundy, Alberta, including the repealing of any unsightly and dangerous premises bylaws in the former incorporated municipalities. So it would be one new bylaw for all of Fundy, Alberta to replace the 3 former municipal bylaws that would exist. Now that has to be done. There's also the question of whether any funding from the Department of Environment and Local Government or the Department of the Environment would have been attributed to those departments for the enforcement of the unsightly provisions of the unsightly and dangerous provisions of the Local Governance Act that apply to former unincorporated areas. So I believe that when we do this, we need to go to the provincial government, either Department of Environment and Local Government or Environment, the Department of the Environment, and say, okay, folks, if you had any money that you had earmarked for that, that should now come to us, because we are now responsible for it. So it's just an information item, and I will follow up with the CAO to get further information. Any questions? No? Item number D, Hillsborough Rec Council. So at the December 5th meeting, council. Oh, sorry, Councilor Land is recusing himself. My apologies. So item number 10D, at the December 5th meeting, council members were provided information on the genesis of the Hillsborough Rec Council, its historical use and purpose, as well as governance structure. There's currently a bank account associated with the Rec Council. The account needs to be closed as it was previously associated with the Village of Hillsborough, and the Village of Hillsborough accounts have all been closed. So the bank itself is requiring us to close that account. The Village of Hillsborough, our treasurer informs me that in order to open up a new account, this council would need to adopt a resolution to do so. So council needs to decide what to do, and we need to look at a potential resolution. And I believe Councilor Arrow, you had a potential resolution to present?
I do. And in fact, I don't know if we can, I don't personally see, I realize that you self-declare a conflict of interest. But from what I'm about to talk about, I don't see any need for council.
That's up to Councilor Land to declare, but.
Okay. Whereas it is agreed that the Hillsborough Rec Council has done and does good works in the community. And whereas the Hillsborough Rec Council has no board of directors and is effectively owned and operated by the new amalgamated municipality of Fundy, Alberta. And whereas there are concerns that the new Fundy, Alberta Village Council is not currently able to oversee the functioning of the Hillsborough Rec Council in a manner that is consistent with what is expected of a municipal government, I move that council requests our new chief administrative officer to review the role of the Hillsborough Rec Council, has played in Fundy, Alberta in 2023, and the role it could play in the future for the betterment of the community, and to make recommendations to council on the suggested future of the Hillsborough Rec Council and how to best ensure that council is able to have effective oversight of the Hillsborough Rec Council operations in a manner similar to all other Fundy, Alberta municipal government operations.
Okay, so moved by Councilor Arrow. Is there a seconder on that motion?
I'll second.
seconded by Councillor Elderton. Councillor Arrow, do you have any comments?
The only thing I would add is just to sort of further clarify that I have no problem with any of our rec councils, because we have several of them in the community of Fundy, Albert. Alma has a rec council, Riverside, Albert has a rec council, and Hillsborough has one, but they're not the same. And it's only the Hillsborough Rec Council that is essentially owned and operated by the municipality. And as a new government, and those of us who have come, who were not from Hillsborough and came in, it's not at all clear on how the rec council of today, Hillsborough Rec Council, is being overseen. We have never seen financial statements and never had a motion here. The only things we've ever found out were after the fact. And so to me, it's a straightforward, this motion. I think this is what we need to find out what's the best way for the Hillsborough Rec Council to be set up moving forward. Perhaps it's the same as we have now, with a more clearly defined organizational overview role from this, or perhaps it's having the rec council in the community, like it is in the rest of Fundy, Albert, run by the community. But this would get to that, and we would revisit this once we had recommendations back from those who had studied it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Arrow. Councillor Elderton, any comments?
Yeah, I think this process that Councillor Arrows provided will provide the clarification that's needed. And I think from there, we'll be able to move forward. And personally, I look forward to working with the Hillsborough Rec Council. And you had mentioned in your statement that you needed a motion to transfer the funds to a separate account. Is that separate from this? We don't include that with this?
No, that's not included in it, but if there's I think it would be maybe putting the cart before the horse.
Okay.
To do that, there needs to be a decision at some point in terms of the banking. The way forward with banking. I think maybe the best way would be just to see what the review does, and comes back with recommendations, and then set up a bank account for it. Okay. Councillor Ward Russell, any comments?
Just quickly, I see and understand the benefit of such councils or such recreation councils, including the Hillsborough Recreation Council. And I support this motion and look forward to an ongoing review and really more communication. I think that's what's missing in all this, is just proper communication. And I think if that is done and completed, then I don't think there will be any issues going forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coates.
Just one short thing on the last paragraph that he has. Fundy, Albert, 2023, and the role it could play in the future for the betterment of the community. I would say that communities should be instead of just one community. Because we're pointing at Fundy or at Hillsborough. If my colleague would agree to that.
Well, and I would actually say to the betterment of Fundy, Albert.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So would you support a friendly amendment to change community to Fundy Albert?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a friendly amendment. Anything else, Councillor Coates?
No.
Okay, so the only comment I'll make is that I have been aware of the Hillsborough Rec Council for quite some time. And in fact, when I began as mayor for the village of Hillsborough back in early 2021, I was aware of it operating, and at the time, as I've mentioned in the notes that were provided to council on that, it was previously managed by the administrator and also a council. They were the ones that were overseeing it, I guess, if you wish. But since then, there's really been absolutely no management of the Hillsborough Rec Council, and there are not a lot of records, and it should be a whole lot more transparent and a whole lot clearer in terms of its roles, responsibilities, and also the financial accounting. I believe in financial accounting. I come from a financial background. So I would certainly agree to that, and this by no way should be interpreted by anyone as being anything of a threat to any organization that may or may not benefit from the Hillsborough Rec Council. So I think going forward, I think it's a solid recommendation, and I would support it as well. So, any further discussion? So on the motion as presented by Councillor Arrow with the friendly amendment to change community to Fundy Albert, all in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. So, yes, one of our spectators will get Council Land back in the room. So noted that Council Land is back in the room. Or actually, council chambers. All right, so item number 10E is a request from the New Brunswick Railway Museum. Council has been provided a request for funding received from the New Brunswick Railway Museum. The request, which highlights the importance and relevance that museums have in our communities, includes a request for grant funding from the municipality in the amount of $12,000. The Village of Fundy Albert does not yet have a grants and contributions policy. If a decision is made in relation to this request, it must be made through a resolution. And I believe, Councillor Arrow, you have something in relation to grants and policies. I don't know if you want to bring it up at this time, or it might be appropriate. It might be as good a time as any to bring it up.
Because there are a few other agenda items just coming up that also pertain to grants. So here is my motion. Whereas an ever increasing number of grant applications are being received by our administration and council on an almost daily basis. And whereas Fundy Albert still does not have a grants policy to guide council in awarding grants. And whereas Fundy Albert has a limited amount budgeted for grants in 2024. And council wishes to award grants in the most effective way possible. I move that Fundy Albert issue a call for grant applications to all nonprofit organizations in Fundy Albert who are providing good works in and for our community and who wish financial assistance from our local government. Deadline for these applications should be 30 days from now. Once received, the Fundy Albert administration under the leadership of our CAO shall review all applications received by the submission deadline and make a recommendation to council at the February Council of the Whole meeting for recommended grants totaling no more than 80% of the budgeted allocation for grants. Council would then debate and approve the grant requests deemed worthy and of support in 2024 at the March regular council meeting.
So moved by Councillor Arrow. Were you able to
Yeah.
capture? You kind of changed a few words.
Yeah, a few. Not many.
So is there a seconder on that motion? So seconded by Councillor Ward Russell. Councillor Arrow, any discussion on that?
I could add just a few little details. Unless somebody wants to correct me, I believe our budgeted amount for grants for 2024 is $44,000. That represents less than 1% of our total budget. So it's not a particularly large amount of money, although it may seem like that. We see that on this agenda item from the railway, they're asking for, as an example, 12,000, was it? So
Correct.
there's lots of need in the community for grants. And we need to just make sure we have a system for allocating them wisely and fairly to the community. And I think if we follow this, we'll probably be better off this way than we were last year, which was much more ad hoc.
Councillor Ward Russell, any comments? As
No.
you seconded the motion.
Yeah, no, I appreciate this motion, and I've kind of been, we both, John and I have been asking for this, to happen over the last number of months, so, yeah, I think this is, a way forward for Fundy Albert in 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Elderkin, any comments?
Yeah, just the deadline for applications, I think 30 days is a little soon. Our new CAO has just started, and I think that kind of limits the time frame of some of the priorities that may happen between now. I would like to see that move to 60 days. And then push out February to April.
Councillor Arrow, would you be in favor of that as a friendly amendment, as long as it's supported by the person who seconded the motion?
I would be, the only thing the only downside I see of that is that the organizations that need the money or are asking for the money would not find out whether they were a successful grantee. The grantee for another month, but if that's
Well,
what they
do
do.
you support it or
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
Okay, you support it. So Councillor Ward Russell, you seconded the motion. Are you in favor
Yes.
of those changes? So to 60 days and at the April regular meeting?
Well, the April town.
Yeah, the April town meeting, and then would be adopted by the first regular meeting in May.
Oh,
March.
February, March, no, sorry, would be the March committee of the whole meeting,
Correct, in April.
and then the April
Yeah.
regular meeting. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the question, sorry, Councillor,
I'd like to add that, but I do agree with John, it's good that we have a list. But I think we also should look back at our previous year to see who we already have put in favor of grants. And bring that forward also at the same time.
and how I see us doing this,
just,
how I would see that is the wording call for grants. I think it's gonna be important that, we broadcast to the community widely and to those who are receiving them, if like,
That's right.
give them a phone call and say, hey, did you see the call for grants? But
I'll get you more.
yeah,
all right, so on the motion, all in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any. The motion's carried. Next item is item number 10F. It's a request from the Albert County Historical Association, so really, I'll read it, but I think the end result will be the same. Members of council were provided a request for funding received from the Albert County Museum. The request provides details of the types of activities programming offered by the Albert County Museum, and includes a request for grant funding from the municipality in the amount of $12,000. The president of the Albert County Historical Association is offering to appear before council to provide additional information. The village of Fundy, Albert doesn't have the a grants and contributions program, but if I understand correctly, this would fall under this particular motion, the previous motion that was adopted. So we will move on to item number 10G, and I'll just read through them. 10G and 10H are essentially the same, so we would have to assume these. So council has received a request from the Royal Canadian Legion to sponsor their annual military service recognition book through the purchase of advertising. The advertising is available at costs ranging from $255, taxes included, for a 1/10 page business card sized ad, to a 2-page ad at a cost of $2,570, taxes included. So, and then the last one is the request from Elementary Literacy. Council's received a funding request from Elementary Literacy for financial support of their program, which focuses on teaching young children to read. It's a provincial program sponsorship that is available through contributions of any amount. The suggested range of contributions are between $150 and $3,000. So again, that would fall under this particular motion, the one that was read previously and adopted. Item number 10I, which is a request from an Airbnb owner. So correspondence has been received from the owner of several Airbnbs in the community of Alma, asking to be included in residential solid waste collection. The owner indicated that they are prepared to pay an additional fee. I believe the former village of Alma excluded businesses from solid waste collection, perhaps because of the increased volume of solid waste that this would create and the limited ability to collect it. I'm not 100% sure, Councilor Arrow, maybe you can shed some light.
Well, all the background, I'm not sure, but it's in a bylaw. That's the important thing. It's like, there's a bylaw that mandates that commercial lodging is, excluded from municipal.
Residential.
Yeah,
Solid waste collection.
yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions in relation to that matter? Or comments?
So,
Yeah.
sorry, how do we respond to her? Like her,
That we would cite the fact that there is a bylaw in place, and until such time as that bylaw is repealed and or replaced by something else, that we are bound to follow the bylaw.
I personally am supportive of us, when time allows. I realize we have many things on the plate, but I think this is a bylaw that is worthy of review.
Mhm.
Is there no solid waste collection bylaw in anywhere else within Fundy Albert?
I'm not aware.
Okay, but certainly there is one in Alma, and so on some levels, I'm sympathetic to this request, and I understand some of the concerns of other accommodation that aren't Airbnb, that still are required to get commercial garbage pickup. But I think there's some study of worthy here, so I don't know whether we can at some point task the administration to review this bylaw. And consider updating it. And having perhaps engagement with the community as part of that.
And that's probably a good idea. From my perspective, I think kind of my quick kind of overview of it. It would have to be carefully crafted. Well, I mean. As you are, I'm somewhat sympathetic to the request, given the fact that the folks that are running Airbnbs are still paying property taxes like everyone else, which includes the cost of solid waste collection, yet in some cases, they have to get their own commercial solid waste collection because they operate a business. But then there's also the element of it that because we collect our own solid waste in the community of Alma and Riverside, Albert, that if we relied solely on our own ability to collect, we might overwhelm our own personal resources. So we need to be very cautious. As we
It is important to recognize that this request actually, they were agreeing to pay additional amounts.
That's correct.
As opposed to, in the past, we've had some accommodation that just wanted
It included.
but so this needs further study.
Okay, perfect. All right, so that deals with item number 10. Item number 11, bylaws. There are no bylaws to present this evening. Item number 12, which is mayor and councillor statements and inquiries. I'll begin with Councillor Land at the end of the table. You're first to speak.
Excellent. Been a busy month. We've had a lot of budget meetings, I think 7 or 8 in all. Also, I attended a four-wheeler meeting over at the Curling Club, sorry, in Albert. There's a proposal to make a 3-season four-wheeler trail here in Albert County, and I support that, and I reach out to anybody that's interested in that to get a hold of Joanne Bond. She's kind of heading that up to get some information on it and push it forward. So they need volunteers, that's the biggest thing, and I'm very supportive of that. That's good.
Great, thank you very much, Councillor Land. Councillor Coates.
Just a couple of things, our generators for Alma and Kiwanis.
Yes,
Have we done anything on them?
no,
Are we going to do anything
my hope is yes. Right away.
right away? Because you got the report of the weather report tonight. I don't want to be in the same mess we were in last, February it was. So let's get at it. I think we have some funding on the.
Yes.
To get that, so let's, and, possibly another, so let's wear it. Next thing, this is a real. This was a news release on, May 31st, 2022. A new heavy industrial classification property proposed, okay? Goes on saying that, they're doing this to, permit local government and rural districts to levy a corresponding local property tax rate. I've been on this since, a month or a half, and, I am getting a little bit, but I'm just frustrated that they give names on this and you, contact them and they don't do anything. I did get a champion in the government, but it's nothing to do with what they say in their press release. I contacted, Service New Brunswick. They did get a name after 4 or 5 different calls. Environment and local government, they never responded, and finance and treasury never responded. All I'm asking is, they've got the tax rate that can be applied,
Mhm.
but what do they call the classification? What is heavy industrial classification?
Mhm.
And they don't, nobody knows in government yet,
Right,
so.
okay. So,
Just add something.
yeah, yes, Councillor.
Council
Well, first of all, Councillor Post, were you done?
Yes.
Okay. so
What
Councillor
I
Earl,
understand from our recent, the budget that we just passed,
Yes.
is the heavy industrial rate is included. So we have established the rate.
Yeah.
But what we also know is the province provided us with the tax base.
Yeah.
And they break it down to residential, non-residential, and heavy industrial. And under the heavy industrial number, it's 0. Which leads me to believe that the province has deemed that within Fundy Albert, there are no properties that meet that classification, which you're having a hard time finding out actually what it is. But whatever it is, we have none according to the province. I know you've spoken before about there's some big
Yeah,
operations and,
and it's a pet peeve.
yeah,
Just as a rebuttal to that, I read in the paper that, as we know, in the, is going on, they class that as heavy industrial. They have a scrapyard out in, McLaughlin Road that every day, the paper, you pick up pennies, U-Haul, I guess it is, where you go to pay your fee and stuff. They class that, the city of Mountain classes that as heavy industrial.
And there are probably some properties in Fundy Albert that maybe should be categorized. That just because the province deems it to be 0, doesn't mean that that can't be looked at. Because if you ask me if we would have any, I would definitely say yes.
maybe we should take an action to contact Service New Brunswick government.
No, I have I have a name that's getting back to me, and with Christmas and vacations, the fellow that is supposed to know everything about it only come back to work this week, so.
Okay.
I'm
So Councillor, okay, thank you, Councillor Coates, Councillor Arrow.
Yeah, I only have a couple of things here. One is today, and I shared with the rest of council, the regular update that I receive as the liaison person with Fundy National Park. And I hope that we can get those put on the website or the Facebook page. They're basically nice, public relations output from Fundy Park. The one item I noted in there that might be of interest to our community right away or soon is February 8th at 8 a.m. is when the reservation system for Fundy National Park for the year opens online. So If you want some special spots, February 8th at 8 AM is a good time to log in. The only other one I have, it's a question, an inquiry, is we know that there was the phase 2 water expansion project
Mhm.
for Alma, for which we've received, thankfully, the $12.2 million funding from the province and the feds. There's the contract, and the contract, I thought actually we might be talking about it, and maybe we will be later on in this meeting, I'm close session, I'm not sure, but what is the status of the signing of that contract?
The contribution agreement has been signed.
Not the contribution agreement, now that's the one with the federal and provincial partners, it's the
Right.
contract with Anglo. If you recall, they sent that to us, there was actually near the end of December deadline, and I believe our interim CAO before you,
Mhm.
Linda, was able to get an extension. Do you recall any of that?
No,
Okay, I think maybe
We'll look into it.
I'll deal with our CAO to find the status. I believe we're outstanding for signing that. And maybe I'll have a more discussion with both of you, because I think we need to have some discussions before we sign that, and we probably need to sign it very soon.
okay, that's it. Councilor Ward Russell.
Perfect, I'll be fairly quick as well. Since this is my first meeting in person in 2024, I'd just like to take the opportunity to wish my fellow councillors a happy new year. And I look forward to many accomplishments in 2024. An update on the Greensboro Lagoon project. I've met with ELG in December regarding an update, and this currently sits as status quo from my last report. Also had a joint meeting with ELG and a private party who's interested in providing management services to Sitch Lagoon once finalized. So we will be re-meeting in February to continue this discussion. Finally, currently working with NV Power to move forward on a timely manner to provide power to the new residential area in North Coverdale. Seems like residents are unable to receive power to continue their build. I believe further dialogue is needed on behalf of these residents.
Great, thank you. Councilor Alderson.
I attended the Alberta County Tourism Association Christmas Social at the Shepherdie Bay Inn. Great conversation was had, and certainly appreciated the tour of the Shepherdie Bay Inn, confirming it is yet another great accommodation destination within Fundy, Alberta. The fire truck, as noted in the budget summary, there has been money set aside for the purchasing of a new fire truck for the Riverside Fire Station. We look forward to working through the next steps of this process. There are a group of seniors and residents in the past that during the winter months walk in the mornings at the Riverside Albert Rec Center when it's not being utilized. They have reached out just seeking approval from Fundy Albert to continue this practice. They have a key. If there's nobody renting it or nobody there in the mornings, they just unlock it when it's cold and go and do the walking and lock it back up. If it's okay with everybody, we can continue with that practice. Do I need a motion?
Don't need to fix it if it isn't broke.
Okay. In addition, I've attended several budget meetings, as well as the four-wheeler meeting at the Fundy Curling Club, a great project they have on the go there. In addition, I would like to work with you, Mayor Rochon, to hold the budget, Ward 2 budget summary. I would like to host one somewhere and work with you to, I think it's important that we get the budget information out into the board, so if you want to start there, I would be willing to that. Appreciation to Principal Kierster today for accommodating my very last minute request to hold a meeting here at the Riverside Consolidated School today, so I do appreciate that. I would also like to take this opportunity to wish the resident staff, mayor, and fellow councillors of Fundy Albert a happy new year. I look forward to working alongside them as we continue to work towards the betterment of Fundy Albert.
Thank you very much. I'll try not to duplicate too much of what was said. So on December 6th, I attended the day after our last regular council meeting, I attended a regional public safety committee meeting. So I'm the chair of that committee. I presided over the meeting of that committee, formerly known as the Public Security Committee. The committee's new mandate is not only to provide a forum for exchange of information by service providers, but to look at opportunities to strengthen our regional abilities and resilience. One of the outcomes of the meeting was to explore opportunities to develop a regional emergency measures plan as opposed to each separate entity coming up with their own. One that could be shared with everyone. The next meeting is scheduled tentatively for the month of March. On December 7th, I participated in a national webinar organized by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I, along with the mayors of the communities of Sun Peaks, British Columbia, and Sundre, Alberta, spoke on tourism, the impact on our local economies, and opportunities and challenges going forward. The webinar video can be posted on our website, so people can actually look at it. So I'm probably gonna throw that on there, just so folks, if they're interested. It's actually a very interesting conversation. On December 7th as well, I participated in a virtual call with representatives of the Anglophone East School District to discuss the creation of a reciprocal agreement between the Anglophone East School District and Fundy, Alberta. The goal is to create an arrangement similar to what exists in other communities where our municipality would partner with the school district to provide access to their facilities in exchange for services from the community. The school district's financial person has invited members of council to take part in a further virtual session on January 24th at 4 p.m. I believe I forwarded that to council, but I will forward it again, just as a reminder. It's on January 24th at 4 p.m. I recommend that everyone take part in that because we'll be required to make a decision in terms of that reciprocal agreement. I also participated in a regional transportation committee meeting on December 8th. I attended the Southeast Regional Service Commission board meeting on December 13th, where we received a presentation from a well-known area economist and public policy consultant on the topic of housing. The economist predicts that by 2030, the population of Fundy, Alberta, now approximately 6,100 residents, will grow to almost 7,000. The availability of housing is predicted to continue to fall well short of the population growth. The report was shared with members of council. On January 3rd, members of council attended a meeting organized by the Chipotle Revitalization Committee, as was mentioned, with the ATV, with the Chipotle CCRC on the topic of developing a trail from Hillsborough to Alma. The project, if realized, would be an economic and tourism benefit to Fundy, Alberta. For our local government, it would involve working with CCRC and the Alberta County Trailblazers ATV Club and residents to permit ATV travel on certain community streets in Hillsborough, Riverside, Alberta, and Alma. Just to be clear. On January 5th, the transfer of the replica train station in Hillsborough to the New Brunswick Division of the Canadian Railway Historical Association was finalized. So that's all done. And lastly, I would like to thank Mr. Chris Kelly for his help in bringing much needed improvements to the Fundy Albert website. The website is now much easier to navigate and is much visually appealing to users. Thanks, Chris. Much appreciate your help. So that is it for me. Yes.
You mentioned that you'd shared the housing study from, does anybody else recall getting that? I don't recall getting that.
Okay,
I know it's been busy there.
yeah, it's been busy, so
I don't think we got.
I'll take a look at it. It's actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
It's a PowerPoint presentation. So we have notices. Next item on the agenda is notices of motions and resolutions. The first is an investigation into 2 public complaints received in September 2023 has been completed. The finding is that Council Land provided direction to Public Works employees contrary to the improper use of influence provisions of the Code of Conduct bylaw for the Council of Fundy, Alberta. As a result, Council has the duty to impose a sanction in accordance with that bylaw. A motion of council is required to formalize that sanction. So I would look for someone to read that resolution at this time.
I can read that for you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Whereas an investigation has been conducted into the public complaints made against Councillor Jeff Land, and whereas it is determined that Councillor Land provided direction to public work employees contrary to the improper use of influence provisions of bylaw 2022-02, the Code of Conduct bylaw for the Council of Fundy, Alberta. Be it resolved that the Council of the Village of Fundy, Alberta determined that the appropriate sanction in this matter is that Councillor Land be issued a written reprimand. Be it further resolved that Councillor Land will be replaced as the chair of the Public Works Advisory Committee effective immediately.
So moved by Councillor Ward Russell. Is there a seconder on that motion? seconded by Councillor Arrow. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? The motion's carried. Item number 13B, a motion of council is required to name individuals authorized to sign checks and payment authorizations for the 2024 calendar year. In the draft resolution that was provided, there was an insert name in there, that would be Councillor Arrow. So kindly, if I could be so kind to have someone read that motion for me, please.
Be it resolved that the council of the village of Fundy, Alberta authorize the treasurer, Jillian Hutchinson, or the chief administrative officer / clerk, Lynn Savarone, and the mayor, Robert Loshaw, or the deputy mayor, Johnny Rue, to sign all checks and payment authorizations issued by the local government of Fundy, Alberta for the 2024 operating year.
So moved by Councillor Elderton, seconded by Councillor Coates. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. The last item on the agenda in public session is comments and statements from the public. So we'll now offer the public an opportunity to provide comments and statements. If required, a time limit of 15 minutes in total will apply to this session. So does anyone wish to make any comments or statements? If not, thank you very much for attending, folks. And we do have some matters under closed session, so I'll entertain a motion to move into closed session. So moved by Councillor Ward Russell, seconded by Councillor Elderton. All in favor of the motion, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you very much for attending, folks, and have a good evening and Happy New Year.